Hello, everyone. Welcome to Title Insights. I am joined by Gavin Greco, who is the lead designer over at Penny Arcade, and we're just going to hang out and talk. How you doing today?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing good. Always nervous on streams a little bit still, but yeah, I'm doing good. so, you recently. So let's just kind of jump into what's going on. You just designed a bunch of pins, right, for Penny
uh,
Arcade?
it wasn't recently. I think we did it 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
But we restock, reorder them every year to
Oh,
keep
okay.
keep the same thing going. But it was 2018, I think, when we started the pin designs. Yeah.
And who is your cat?
This is cannoli.
And that is Cannoli's version of saying hello.
Yeah. For anyone who lives in Seattle, you'll know that it is like about to be 100 degrees tomorrow. So she's got a little bandana on that you get wet, and then it keeps your cats cool.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, it
That's
is
what the pet store
probably
told me to do.
a
So
hundred
like,
degrees in my streaming room right now, and I'm like, okay, well, let's hope this stream lasts an hour before
yeah.
everything melts down. Let me see. Yeah, so I got the pins up right now, and we've got the critically queer. We've got the new game plus load. We got the game controller, and then the super cutie.
Mm.
These are all fantastic. What was it like designing these pins?
It was cool. I had like for a while I had wanted to do something for Pride and stuff, and something that like I knew that I didn't want to make anything unless we could donate to a charity to make it. Like I didn't want it to just be like feel pandery or feel like a grab.
Right.
So um, Lambert House was a organization that I had already been familiar with, and like they're local to Seattle. It's just the one place, so your dollars do a lot more work than with like a international or even national organization. They've got a lot more marketing budget, attention, things like that. So I wanted it to be someplace local that would have like a big effect, and um, we actually went and toured Lambert House and met with Ken, who started Lambert House and everything. And so this was 2018, and they're located in Cap Hill, and so that area is obviously like uh, just getting wiped right now for gentrification and
Right. Yeah.
you know single family homes being torn down and putting up like more housing and stuff. And they are in a house in Cap Hill, and it's definitely an old home. And in 2016, they were able to purchase it. They had like a benefactor offer them a like 0% interest loan to buy the property for what it was trying for whatever obscene amount it was.
Yeah.
And so they were like, still they're like building up their funds and stuff, trying to pay off this loan and keep this house, because that's like where all these events take place. So they're a youth house for LGBTQ. I think it's the cutoff is like um, 20 years old or something like that. But basically, like it's specifically youth focused. And I found out about them because I had a young trans guy that I was doing mentorship for, and he was like experiencing homelessness at the time, and so that was a place that he could go every day after school to like have a place to have a meal and hang out and make friends and stuff. And so that was how like I had come to learn about them and the stuff that they do there. And so they have like awesome programs to give queer youth a place to be safe if they're not safe at home. And a lot of they don't have like housing there. It's just like a place to hang out and eat and stuff like that. So they're doing really awesome work in the Seattle area, and I definitely recommend their like youth events and stuff. If you are queer youth in Seattle, like they've got really awesome things they do there. And I think that everything's virtual right now. They've still been like keeping all their groups going, but everything is still on Zoom, so you can participate, I guess, even if you're queer youth not in Seattle.
Yeah, it's an awesome cause, and I mean, if you are not aware, like there are a lot of people who become displaced from families and stuff like that, and it's a good safe
Mhm.
place to be. Uh,
Yeah.
so, when did you when did you start working at Penny Arcade? Because I must have seen you in the offices at some point. Like, when did you start?
2010.
What?
2010.
2010? Yeah, I must
Yeah.
have passed you at some point in
Oh
the
yeah, for
offices.
sure, for sure. Yeah, if you've been to the Redmond office, my office is like right next to Mike and Jerry's.
Oh, okay,
You
yeah.
probably just walked by.
What was it like joining Penny Arcade?
I love it. When I got there in 2010, there was I think I was the 10th or 11th employee. Um, it was one or the other. I can't remember, but
Wow.
that was the whole company. uh, and so that was I got hired like 2 weeks before PAX East, the very very first PAX East.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's the only PAX East I haven't been to because I was like moving in all of my stuff
Yeah.
and getting settled in new state. Um, but yeah, that was 2010. We were in Fremont at the time. Definitely a much smaller space.
Right.
Um, and then even in that Fremont office, we ended up expanding to like another part of the building that we were in had multiple units. And so we expanded into like another unit in that building to take up more room. But that was man, it was really like it was cool to be in that small space together because everybody was like,
Mm.
all in uh close offices, tight quarters and stuff, but it's nice definitely to have more space in the bigger building and having like all of our like merch and stuff under one roof and all that.
What's it like now in the bigger building? I've been to the bigger building quite a bit. I was like shocked by the space, but you guys filled the space quite quickly.
Yeah, yeah, I haven't been there in like a year and a half now.
Yeah.
But it's definitely nice to have like room to do things like we have whenever we're doing like merchandise design, like apparel stuff. We do a lot of things where we're um, providing like the uh, manufacturer with the dimensions that we want. So we've got like space that we can like lay out a bunch of garments and measure them and have the kind of volume that we need. Dave's got a whole photography area like with a proper studio setup instead of it everything feeling like we gotta like set all of this up to tear it all down because we need this space for like something else.
I don't even remember how I met Dave. That's like I ran into Dave at a convention, and then one day he was working at Penny Arcade
Yeah.
because I used to live in Portland as well, and I'd be down in Portland a lot. And of course, Dave's here now, but yeah, it's one of those. It's a scary factor of getting older that you start to not remember how you even know people.
Yeah, I knew Dave because he applied for my job in 2010. That's how I met Dave.
Oh, okay.
Um, we got in contact, and then we became friends and like hung out in Portland all the time. And then when he moved up here to, hi.
I want attention.
When he moved up here to take the job for that he has now, he's senior designer. Um, we we're like are very exciting to get to work with like one of my best friends.
Right. What what advice do you have? Because Penny Arcade is so high profile and like, especially in the video game community and the nerd community in general, and tabletop and everything else. Like, what was it like getting that job? And also, what's your advice for people now that you've accumulated, 10 years of knowledge at Penny Arcade and design and stuff?
Um, hmm. I mean, whenever people ask me like that, I'm always like, I haven't applied for a job in 11 years. I don't really know
Right.
what to tell you. Like, I mean, when I got the job, it was, quite a long time ago, but I remember that was when PAX East had just been announced and stuff. And so there was a lot more attention being given at the time because people were excited about this second PAX that was happening and sort of giving it more of an eye that it already had on it. So I was definitely like it was one of those jobs that I applied for where it was like, I'm not looking for work. I'm looking for this job.
Yeah.
And if I don't get that job, I'll continue to do what I'm doing. And I was running my own business at the time, doing design in. I lived in Central Florida, and so I was like, I've never been to Washington. I know, I know stuff about Seattle, like because I was always into that music scene. But I was like, I'll move sight unseen to another state, but. I don't know. I don't know what advice I would
Yeah,
have for anyone because it's been so long. But
that's like a terrible shock in itself. Like
yeah,
my partner is from South Florida, and the first thing that came up was why is it so vertical here, and also
yeah,
volcanoes. Volcanoes were a very big concern.
yeah. Well, I definitely have lived through my fair share of hurricanes in the 5 years I lived in Florida, so I don't miss that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, they have a lot of hurricane stories. But I didn't start becoming concerned about volcanoes until she kept on mentioning it all the time, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm upset. Now I'm upset that Mount Rainier exists.
yeah, she'll kill us all.
It's like, oh, look how pretty the mountain is. Like, is
For
it?
now, for
Yeah,
now.
one day it will be decidedly not pretty.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you like about that design process? Like, is it unique to Penny Arcade? But you've been there for so long now, you probably like don't remember anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I worked at one studio before, um, where I actually worked with like other designers. Otherwise, I was like at, or I guess I worked at two studios. I was at one place where I kind of was their only designer, so there's not really an equivalent. But um, running my own business, I was not having to worry about working with other people. Um, but when I was at a other studio, it had like the worst vibes. It was I was like their newest hire, and they just like treated me like garbage. It sucked. They were, and it wasn't even like I was an intern or something. Like I was same like job title as these other people, and they were like they would prank me in like mean ways that did not feel fun. They just felt like mean and stuff. So it was like coming from that being like the last experience I had had in a like collaborative creative environment, I was like, this is lousy. And then I was doing my own thing and loving it, except that I was working like 15-hour days just, you know, because you overwork yourself when you're the only person to tell you when to work.
Yeah.
But coming into PA and just like it was like I remember being overwhelmed. I remember crying because I was like, oh my god, I just went from like an environment in Florida where I was sort of like felt like I was floating a little bit, and coming here and feeling like really grounded and having like, you know, there's 10 or 11 of us, but being like, oh my god, I have 10 new friends now, like these people that I genuinely like have an investment in. I can tell that they care about me, they want to get to know me, and so that was just like a really awesome feeling, to just not just feel like, oh yeah, I got a new job, and you're always shaky in a new job, you're kind of like hoping you don't mess it up and all that. But it was awesome to feel like so immediately welcomed, and like, yeah, you know you're one of us now, this is who we are, and just getting, I don't know, not ever feeling like the new kid in a way that was like, I don't know, nerve-wracking, or like my previous job, like cruel.
Right. Penny Arcade's a weird. It was such a weird thing because I had not gone, and this is years ago. I was working at NBC as a video game reporter. That wasn't even my official job yet, but I
Hmm.
went. I remember the first time I went and being deeply confused because I wasn't part of the gaming community. I didn't know anyone would play games. I no longer had a group of people to play D&D, and then to walk into like a convention center full of people I could have a conversation with was very weird.
Yeah.
And still remember where I was at the bottom of the escalator and just looking around. I'm like, oh, there are way more. Uh, and this is silly to say now. There are way more like nerds and gamers than I thought.
Mhm.
Like to have them all in one place, and at that time maybe it was like 20,000, and now it's been like 70,000 or 90,000 people show up.
Yeah.
Was just kind of like a surreal experience, and then talking to like like Mike and Jerry, and then getting to know other people at Penny Arcade, I'm just like, oh, this is what life can be, because I was definitely the odd person at NBC.
Yeah.
So I did not fit in necessarily in that group. Lovely people, wonderful people, but like they didn't know what language I was talking in any way, and to suddenly be um, surrounded by Penny Arcade folks was always shocking. I probably I jabbered to them constantly when I was in the offices, because I'm like, oh, we can talk about things. But you all are used to it. Like, you are all used to being surrounded by yourselves.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
definitely I didn't think about that. Yeah, whenever I have like I think most of my friends are artists. And I definitely have that vibe too where I'll talk to someone who doesn't like write or draw like in some kind of capacity for a living and remember like, oh wow, like I didn't realize how much of the way that we speak is around that like as a concept, and the same is true for like for games and stuff. Like it's definitely when you're in it you don't realize the like way that it sort of becomes all encompassing until you are talking with somebody that's like, yeah, I don't really play anything, or whatever. Like you can talk about other things but you forget.
yeah, I like when you make small talk with someone or like a neighbor sometimes. Watch, my neighbor will be watching this stream. It's hard to communicate like what you do and what you like, and you're just like, how do I make small talk? And I realize like the more time goes on, the more I'm in this very D&D video game bubble. It's far worse. Like I can't communicate with someone who plays Call of Duty, right? Like if you really like Dragon Age, or Mass Effect, we can have a conversation.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons.
I don't have like I lost my train of thought.
What?
I lost my train of thought.
But your bubble is mainly artists.
Yeah, like creatives, I would say, because definitely like I have a lot of friends that are writers as well, like writing. Friend that just had a book published. Friends that have like that are comic book artists and have had stuff published and things like that. But yeah, oh, I remember what I was gonna say. It's like I cannot explain what my job is when people ask. Um, I I usually just don't like when I make new friends. Like I don't tell them what I do. I tell them I'm a designer, which is true.
Yeah.
I tell them I'm a designer, and then if it eventually we get to talking into more detail about what we do, then maybe I'll say like PAX, because it's a lot easier to if somebody doesn't know what Penny Arcade is, it's fine to be like, do you know what PAX is? And that's usually like the easier way to get there. But if somebody doesn't know what PAX is, I'm just usually like, I'm a designer at a video game media company, because it's like we don't people are like, well, do you make games? No, except for when we do. Like,
Right.
obviously we got the Thornwatch games and things like that, and then it's like, oh well, so you just do this convention. It's like, yeah, it's like a large chunk of the year, but also we do these other things. And yeah, doing like going from doing apparel design to doing pin illustration, and I also do I do our web design and our web front end stuff. And then our engineer Bulin does like all of the back end, everything that like anything that needs to be built for the company. He does like everything that all of the little interactions that our Twitch streams and stuff are capable of is like all built on things that he made.
Yeah, you're in a very unique position. Like you could kind of like you probably touched every piece of media in a way, because like you did have a D&D book. You did have a video game. You have your own games. You have shirts. You have pins. Like there are very few companies you could probably work at where you could like kind of step into all of it.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird place. It's weird to describe, and it's also weird to like to find like an equivalent to. Yeah, because like I think of us as a company that like serves the game industry. Like we're not necessarily making games, like even though that is a thing that we've done. I like just sort of like set that aside. I try to think about like what our greater like most broad description is, and I feel like everything that we do is meant to like serve the greater gaming community, whether that's through PAX or through the merchandise that we make, or the comic and the news posts. It's like all to connect with that audience.
It's like a neutral zone between you and the video game, between fandom and video game companies, because Penny Arcade is very welcoming. And I'm not saying the video game industry isn't welcoming, but there is this very like safe, happy, good time place, right? Like it's not like going to E3.
Yeah.
And Penny Arcade in general, with like the programming and everything else, is like this very like, this is where the fans meet the professionals. Even though everyone at Penny Arcade is very much professional, they're also professional fans of what they're doing. So it's a unique experience. And you're right. I don't know that I could give you anyone on the planet an equivalency to that in any way.
Yeah, I don't know. I think about it too. I'm like, man, if I wasn't doing this, like where could I go that I could do this like broad of a skill set of stuff? And the answer is probably nowhere unless I did my own thing. So I'm definitely very thankful about that. I don't know where else. Like I feel like I found this sweet spot of being able to work like adjacent to the games industry without having to deal with the volatility of being at a studio, because I have a lot of friends that work in games at like proper studios, and if you're working for an indie game, like they can get bought, and now the new company doesn't want you anymore, or you get
yes,
you can get involved. I've had friends working at little indie companies. I've had friends working at Zynga. Like it's, no matter what side of it you're on, it just feels like really, really volatile.
Yeah.
And so like I'm happy to feel like I have security, and I don't have the like crunch workflow that you're going to get in by nature of a lot of that like traditional game development industry stuff. But
how much are you having to be exposed to Alyssa Grant's Lord of the Rings obsession on a daily basis?
Now that she's in Australia, very, very little.
Very little now. You've got like a lot of room between that. Yeah.
She didn't. She was upset to find out that I've only ever seen those movies once.
Oh, no.
And I know basically nothing about them. Like
did that come up in the job interview? Like she wasn't there yet. I don't think you were there before.
She wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
Could have came up in her interview by me.
Yeah, exactly.
I have an uncanny ability to watch a whole movie, have an opinion about it, and tell you nothing about what happened in it. Where I'm like, oh yeah, I really liked that movie. Oh yeah, what was your favorite part? I don't know. I just remember liking it. I remember I felt good when I watched it. So she's like very upset that I didn't have more of a like relationship with the movies, but I watched them for the first time like, I don't know, like 6 years ago or something, like pretty recently. I just didn't have any people that like were into that growing up that I would have watched it with when they were coming out, but I've seen them once.
and you stream on the Penny Arcade channel yourself?
Yeah, Dave and I, we've been off for a couple weeks from each of our respective travels, but
and for those who don't know, who is Dave?
Dave is...
Oh, you said Dave. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, with a B. He is senior designer at Penny Arcade, so he's been there like 3 years shorter than I have, or 2 years shorter than I have, but he's been there quite a long time too.
Yeah.
So we stream every Monday from noon to 2, and we usually stream puzzle games. That's what we've been trying to do.
I just someone from chat right now. By the way, thank you everyone who's in chat right now. We appreciate you joining the stream. Yeah, someone just said I just tuned in which movies. We were talking about the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah,
Alyssa Grant is famously very obsessed with them. I mean, I had a Lord of the Rings themed wedding, so I'm not one to talk, but yeah, Alyssa is very into Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, big fan, huge fan.
So you did. I hope you don't mind me calling you out here. You did used to play horror games, but you don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, we
on
did.
The channel.
And I mean, I never wanted to do it. But I never wanted to do it, but it was. Well, yeah, we would. This is when we were in the studio proper, and Josh would pick out the games for the most part, and he would find the scariest stuff for us. I think I don't count PT because I don't think that counts as a game. It's, it was the playable trailer or whatever, but that was definitely the scariest thing I've ever played. Outside of that, I would say in terms of like a real game, full featured game, the scariest thing we ever played was this game where it was like Taiwanese horror, I think, where there's a girl that is constantly pursuing you and she has a box knife.
No.
And all you hear, and she's wearing like a white dress and she's got this long hair, and you'll hear her coming by hearing her extend and close the box knife. That like little clicky noise as it catches on the teeth. That is the scariest game I've ever played in my whole life. I would have those moments where you are so fully overwhelmed, like you're like, I don't want to play this anymore. There's nothing I want less in this moment than to click retry and do that again. And just knowing that I had to, because it was my job. But like that game was, I think it was called like Welcome Home or something. I don't know. It was like a very unfortunate name. Yeah, I think it has like home in the name. But yeah, I'm very, very thankful to not be playing constant horror games anymore. And there were some that we liked, but my favorite genre is puzzle stuff. And the one like overlap that we found was Josh had found this game, Return of the Obra Dinn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, I'm not. I actually hate puzzle games.
Well, then you would hate it.
Puzzle games are great, but I
hate
am terrible at them. So.
You'd absolutely hate it. It was a game that Josh had picked because it was like horror-ish, but it ends up, I think it's like one of my top 5 favorite games of all time. And so we just kept like just trying to push us more into puzzle stuff. And so it was not being in the office that kind of tipped us over where, oh, okay, well now we're streaming from home. And I've already got this game that I want to play. Like Dave had played Outer Wilds, and he absolutely loved it. And he was like, you have to play this game. You have to play this game. Like, I want to watch you. And so we played it again where I played it. And then we were like, okay, well, we finished, Outer Wilds. What next? Like, let's pick another puzzle game, and just kind of like pushing that through to hopefully carry that theme going.
Yeah, I find every once in a while I'll dive into a horror game, but I have to beat it and to sleep at night. Like I do have to finish, and that's why I don't start them anymore. I won't do it. Long time ago, there was a game called System Shock 2, and I'm like, I have to know this is done for my soul. But I remember Alien Isolation. They showed me the VR early on at E3, and I'm like, yeah, no. And they're like, what, you don't like it? I'm like, no, I think this is great. You've done a great job. I will never play this again, and certainly not on VR. This is like, why do I want to be chased by the alien? Like, why is this a fun experience for me?
Yeah, I also like, I don't play stuff. Can you just got the spicy tail where it knocks everything over. I don't play a lot of like shootery stuff either. So any game that is like a horror game that requires me to shoot something means that I immediately, like, I'm button mashing, like, because I'm already scared now, so I'm like panic pressing buttons.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, now I've just used all of the ammunition that I had, and I've not succeeded at all. So whenever we played horror games, every time, like, we would take turns, like, who was playing what game. But if it was a game that I was supposed to be playing that involved shooting, I would immediately give the controller to Dave whenever any kind of shooting needed to occur. I'm like, listen, do you want to watch somebody try to do this 8 times, or do you just want to do it once and continue on with the game?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, somebody in chat mentioned Dead Space. We did definitely play Dead Space. I like space stuff. I like that kind of the horror that is presented by like the threat of just like space in general, not being able to breathe, things like that.
Yeah, all of that seems like a possibility, right? Like that's why I kind of hate it. Like Dead Space was one of the first games that really creeped me out, and then the third one was less scary for some reason.
Hmm.
and I beat that pretty quickly. But the first one messed me up. It was
Yeah.
pretty bad.
I felt like that game had a lot going on though. It didn't just feel like straight horror. Like some of the games,
No,
like
having the big pillar that slowly warps everyone's minds and that
yeah,
type of horror that you're on
yeah,
the edge of existence basically, and it's more kind of like this kind of existential identity crisis of some
yeah.
kind. Like it just some it's there's something creepy about Dead Space, like your mind slowly no longer being your own.
Hmm.
That stuff is the stuff that scares me, like in movies, and I can watch a movie and enjoy it. That
It feels more plausible that it could happen.
in space, yeah. Like if it's fantasy, like if it's a medieval fantasy horror, I'm like, well, I'm kind of feel like werewolves aren't real, so I think I'm gonna be okay. But like Dead Space, I'm like, I don't know, man. That could be legit.
Yeah,
uh,
I can't watch horror either. It just gives me nightmares, like all of it, just in general.
I don't get slasher horror. I will never understand people who like puzzle horror. Those movies, where like you're trapped in a room and we're going to saw parts of you off. I'm like,
No,
I feel like you should be on a watch list if
I
you
can't do
enjoy that.
horror. Oh, absolutely not.
No.
No, all my friends know this about me too. I'll just every now and then I'll see a trailer for a horror movie and I'm like, man, that looks cool. I'm just gonna wait till somebody I know sees it. And so they'll watch it and then they'll describe to me the plot in excruciating detail. I'm like, tell me everything. I'm never going to see it. Spoil all of it.
Oh
I just
wow.
want to know. I want to know the hook. Like, I think that horror movie plots can be like so interesting, and I'm like, I want to know how did the monster work? Like, how did they defeat this? Like, what was
Right, right, right.
what was the plan to get this happening? Because I want to like experience that part of it without having to watch it and be terrified.
You might be more of a horror short story person. I could see that. Like reading it at your own leisure without being like absolutely horrified by something. That's funny that you like things to be spoiled.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I will still watch it. There's a man with a weed whacker outside.
Naturally, it is at
Don't know
that
how much
time.
of an issue that is going to be.
I think my neighbor Gavin is live streaming. It's also the hottest time of the day. It feels like a good time to weed whack.
Oh
So
yeah, my cat is trying. No, she she tries to groom me. So because she'll
very concerned about your neck.
try to knead my neck and my beard.
That's pretty amazing.
I keep her nails cut very very short because this is a daily occurrence.
Yeah, I didn't have the heart to ever declaw my former cat and others were rescues and that razor sharp, like even for a cat could
Yeah,
climb like a wall.
yeah, you gotta trim them like at least once a week.
Oh, yeah.
If you want them to claw your neck, you have to do it once a week.
If you want them to actively claw your neck. What's your favorite part about Penny Arcade now? And is there a certain element that's shockingly like the most fun? Did you actually design the '90s the '80s website that they made for the C team?
For hacking. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that seemed
I
like
did.
that seems like your kind of thing. Jerry was
Yeah.
so excited, which is always like a ringing endorsement. Is like, have you seen this? This is dope.
Yeah.
They showed me the website.
I'm
Is it-
glad you liked it. Yeah, that was a fun one. It's fun to get to like, I don't know, break rules like that. I don't know when we'll have to redesign it at this point, but it's fun while it is there. I think what is my favorite thing? I think I like um, I like the creative freedom that we have. Like if you have an idea that you're passionate about and you tell somebody about it, you can do it. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be like um, oh well that doesn't fit with whatever theme we were doing or just things like that. It feels like having the creative freedom that people are looking for when they are self-employed, um, without having the risk of you're self-employed and everything is on your shoulders, right? So like when I wanted to do the Pride pin set, I was just like, hey, this is something that's really important to me. I would love to do it. We've never really done something like this before outside of like things that we do for Child's Play. We'd never done anything for charities where I was like, I don't know how it works to make something and give away the proceeds of it. I don't know how any of that
Yeah.
functions, but Lydia did. So she's our merchandise. I think I don't know what her title is. I don't want to say something that sounds less important than she is. She's like in charge of literally all of our
Yeah.
merchandising and sourcing and like coordinating. And yeah, she's like a member of the design team, and she's fantastic. But I think that just feeling like we have the freedom to do something that isn't just like, well, we've already got these Penny Arcade characters, like let's try to find a new way to use them on a shirt or something, like just getting to do things that didn't exist before, and I think that that's come to fruition in like a lot of the merchandise and things like that we've done for PAX too, being like, hey, what if we did like, we could do so much more than just t-shirts, like, and that expanding into what we have now.
Can I pick your brain? So I have an image from the website that says Pride 2018, but I expect you like update the date every year.
I think I don't know actually. I'm assuming somebody updates the year on the packaging.
So looking at the like what went into the design, because we've got these 4 pins. Because I'm just curious myself, because I am not a designer. Like I used to draw and I used to paint and stuff like that, but design is something completely alien to me. My partner Megan is very good at design, but it's not something I am necessarily good. I know what I like when I see it. It's just because I do abstract paintings and drawings, and that is not design.
Yeah,
in that sense, like it does not the same rules do not necessarily apply. So like when it came to the critically queer pen, like how did you go about that, like or all of them, like where did it come from?
Well, I wanted to make sure that I felt like I had pins that sort of spanned different parts of like the LGBT community and also different parts of gaming culture. And I actually the super cutie one I thought of as the bait, because I was like, this is the most accessible of these pins.
Right.
A straight person would wear this pin and not feel threatened by it. So that's the straight bait, so that everybody's interested. Even if you're like, well, these other ones don't apply to me, but I really like this one, so I can give these other ones as gifts to like, to queer friends of mine that like, hey, this one I know that you will appreciate, right? So I wanted to make sure that there was something there for everybody to enjoy. The super cutie one was one that I had a picture of in my head right away, just because I liked the idea of it's like rainbow coming out of a little
cartridge,
like 64 cartridge or something like that. And then I knew that I wanted to do a trans one, especially because it's definitely still something that is like not as commonly seen. It's like people still do a lot of things for the queer community, but I think a lot of times the trans community can still be an afterthought especially in like selling physical product type stuff. It's like you can get rainbows on anything, but it's hard to find anything outside of just the regular spectrum rainbow. And so I wanted to find something that felt like that was earnest. Like I wanted people to know like, hey, this was like designed by a trans person, and that should be clear in the execution of it. And so I thought that like the idea of New Game Plus felt as like close to the trans experience as I could, sort of equate directly to gaming language.
Yeah.
And then I, ran it by some friends of mine too, and just like, do you relate to this? Like, is this anything? Or am I the only one that this makes sense to? And, one of my friends, she was just like, oh my God, no, that's it. Like, that's spot on. So that was like what inspired that specific pin.
Yeah, it's incredibly clever. I adore that one. I also love the super cutie is hilarious, just because like, wait, I like cartridge and I like rainbow colors.
It's just nice. It's just nice.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then the critically queer one, like obviously it's a D20 and it's a critical hit. How did that come about?
I think that there's like a million D20 pins in the world, and there always will be, and we'll continue to make them. There's just like
right.
It's just it's 6 sides. It's a hexagon. Like as when you do it in 2D, it's not It's not like it's a unique shape. Um, but yeah, I just wanted again like to find a way to do something that was a little bit different than we'd done before. Where I was like, well, I could make each panel of like your traditional D20s made of all triangles. I was like, I can make each panel of this a different color or something like that, but none of that's really necessary. All that is necessary to convey that this is a D20 is language like critical hit or critical role like that. So I wanted the make the stripes more abstract to just kind of have that come across as like obviously this is a dice, and then you get the added like the triangle being like an image used in the queer community as well, like that specific upside down triangle being a mark since used I'd say in protest efforts and stuff like that since the AIDS movement, but
Yeah.
something like that.
What happened with the Nintendo controller?
Oh yeah, so I personally I identify as bi and queer and gay. Like those are all words that that I use, and so I wanted to do one that had like the bi flag colors in it as well. So the purple, blue, and like magenta are the colors of the bi flag, and so I wanted that one to be another, just getting as much kind of varied representation as possible, knowing that you can't do everything, but
Yeah.
trying to break it up among 4 pins.
And those are available right now on the Penny Arcade website.
Yes,
And
they are.
if,
All
if people are
profits
just
go to Lambert House.
yeah, if people are just tuning in, that goes to Lambert House, which is a very good charity and a very good institution. Well, I don't know
Yeah,
what I
they're
call it an institution, but like, yeah,
organization.
very very good organization.
Yeah.
So, what? Well, we got about 15 minutes. Is there anything specifically you would love to talk about now that I mean, you routinely get an audience, obviously, when you are not being terrified by Dave and being forced to play horror games, which you no longer do, and puzzle
Yeah.
games. But like, what excites you about art and design?
Hmm. I think it's what I like to think about, and this is true for music as well, is like I think it's interesting that we can still keep creating new things, even though we're all using the same tools and we're all like using the same colors that have been available since the dawn of time, right? Like if you think about like every song that's ever written has been written with the same notes. There's only so many notes.
Right.
There's not new ones that we're inventing, right? And so I think about art in that same way, where you don't have they didn't invent new red. There's still you still got red, but you can see. I love just the volume of possibility in something that is as old as time. Like people have been making art for as long as there have been people, and so I love that we can still enjoy new things and still like iterate and be inspired by all these works that came before us. I think that's what keeps me excited.
You mentioned like when you were working on these pens, you were concerned about like kind of cashing in, like something being kind of. Do you feel like this is an issue with some corporations when it comes to like Pride Month, where they're just like there for the month, or they slap Pride colors on their already existing stuff?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the worst offenders of it are these large companies that are like actively funding the political campaigns of like candidates that are
Right, like
voting
that are
against.
transphobic, that are
Yeah,
anti-gay.
they're voting against LGBTQ rights around the country, and so you can't 1 month a year be like, oh, we're donating 10% of our whatever to this, and it's like, what if you just didn't spend this other $1 million on these lobbying campaigns? So like that's the worst. And there definitely are companies that are doing it right, but I had a friend ask me the other day. He's like, "What is what do you think is the right way?" And like, obviously, everybody's gonna have a different opinion on what that is. There is no like right answer, but it's the thing that the community needs is money. Like that's what is needed. Like there's a million organizations out there that are trying to do the work to do political lobbying for candidates that are going to make sure that kids are allowed to play sports. And there's plenty of like homeless youth and at-risk youth that need these programs that they don't have access to unless they're funded and they exist. And like, if you don't get the pin set or whatever, that's fine too. Like find a company or find an organization like Lambert House near you, because chances are wherever you live, there's probably something. Like there's probably some small organization near enough in your state that is doing outreach for queer youth. And I would encourage you to find one that's near you to do that, because that's like, it's your money will go a lot further than it will for something like Human Rights Campaign or ACLU or something like that. And they're doing work for LGBT rights, but they've got millions of dollar marketing budgets every year. So it's all in scale.
Well, also, if you're watching this and you're like in a position of power, I mean, when you do live in a bubble of friends, sometimes you can forget like how it's hard to believe things come up again. Like Washington State tried to pass a few laws, or King County tried to pass a few laws. Mm-hmm. And it just blew my mind that Seattle would be that way, because Seattle is often considered to be this very liberal city. And if you live here, you probably know that it's not. Sections of the city can be quite liberal, but it is a very corporate town. And it has sometimes very recently they try to pass some laws. Like I think awareness would also be like, keep yourself aware of what's going on.
Yeah, vote in your local elections.
Yeah,
not just the big ones.
it's not done. So yeah. We have a question from our community manager, which is a little less dramatic. Not dramatic, but be like less deep. The heat wave is about to arrive. What are your best ways to cope with heat? What are your coping mechanisms? I mean, we're not exposed to heat here normally, so like I don't even know.
I don't have AC because nowhere in
Seattle has it.
Yeah, or Seattle, I should say. I don't know about outside, but the building I'm in this apartment building was built in 2010 and doesn't have AC. So, they don't have AC here. The windows, the summers have gotten so much hotter, and they will only get hotter. But I actually was mentioning before we started stream, but my cat has this little bandana on, and both my cats have these right now. They're wet. They're like, they feel like performance tech fabric, like you'd get a Nike t-shirt or something,
right?
And you just soak those in cold water or stick them in the fridge or whatever, and then put them on your pet. So that's a way to keep like your pets cool, which is more what I'm worried about, is what my cats are doing. Also getting your pets, like you can feed them like if you freeze the like little liquid, there's like little cat Go-Gurt.
Oh wow.
I'm sure they make them for dogs too, but it's like tuna or whatever. Right. You can like freeze or refrigerate those kind of foods, and then them eating the cold stuff is also good for them. But I like hot weather. I'm like the one person that lived in Florida that really liked the weather when I was there. So I go to Golden Gardens. I go to the beach. When it's very hot, I just go and I find the nearest body of water that I can swim in.
Oh, wow.
That's what I'm doing on Sunday.
I am adverse. I was born adverse to the sun. Yeah, it's not my particular thing. I did make sure we do have a house, and it does have central air and air conditioning. And
that's
they're
awesome.
Like, "Are you sure it's never hot in Seattle?" I'm like, "It will be." Don't worry. I remember, this is a weird thing, but E3 used to be like the nastiest, because going to LA, it's so hot, and then it's got that humidity that happens at E3. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't say the LA Convention Center is the best circulated convention center in history, but going to the Bethesda booth, I think they put in they just come out with portable air conditioners, and they put one in every booth, and each booth was like basically a coffin, and it was amazing. And so like I'm waiting for my interview for like the maker of Borderlands, and I just have my shirt fully over like the air conditioner. So I look like I'm about to give birth to an air conditioner unit. and that thing was lovely. And so I saved up my money to get one for my apartment. And I
That's
like
awesome.
it's only like 200 pounds, like wheeling this horrible device around, and
Yeah.
eventually it gets too hot to function. But like if you're in Seattle and you need that, or anywhere else, I would recommend one. Uh,
Yeah, I just have like a box fan and stuff, which is fine for me. But yeah, I thankfully I don't mind the heat as much, and uh, I spend as much time outside in the summer as I can.
uh,
So I'm planning on getting wet, and that will solve the problem for me. It's also like it's pretty nice in the shade. Like it's
yeah,
you can usually get a pretty drastic temperature difference.
summer nights are awesome. Like being able to walk around at night and like
Hmm.
and just wander, and it's just kind of like, oh, like I just don't like the sun, and the sun hates me back. So that's how I feel about that. So I feel like
Yeah.
we've answered your question, chat. Uh, does anyone else have any questions about design or Penny Arcade or the pins or Pride Month of any kind? Go ahead and go ahead and ask them. We got about 8 minutes left. Uh, so this year, was there something that was like you were very keen on for designing?
I am doing all web right now. I've been like usually I do all our pack stuff, and this year I did not do pack stuff. This year I'm doing web stuff, which is fun. I really like being able to jump back and forth, especially because it uses a completely different like skill set. And when I'm doing like our front end, you know, HTML, CSS, JavaScript type stuff, uh, it's it's nice to be able to do work separate from art, where it's like everything I'm doing here is a right answer. Like this either works or it doesn't, and that's like
Fair.
very relaxing. And it's when you're working on design, it's like you're failing until you're not. Like if anything that doesn't work, and then eventually you get to the right answer, and you're like, oh, this is great. But you know that process is completely different than coding stuff. So I like to get to do both.
Wow, I can see the simplicity in that. I do like you're right. It's just that like the effort, like even like editing a video or something. I'm like, I don't know if this is good, or eventually I become sick of it and I'm no longer objective. But like, yeah, to have something like it works or it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like I used to work on a farm. Like the stumps don't complain, and I know if I've dug them, right? Like there's
Yeah.
something about that simplicity that makes me very happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I've always appreciated work that you can do faster if you want to. Like I remember back in the day when we still exhibited at San Diego Comic Con. Um, I remember setting up our booth, and we'd be like folding shirts, and it's like if you want the shirt folding to take less time, you can do it faster. It's just not. You can complete your work faster by doing it faster. That is just so not true. In like anything that I do on a regular basis, like you can't just make art faster. You can make worse art, but you can't make art faster. But like you can, we would see who could fold t-shirts the fastest. It's like, all right, well, let's make a game out of this. Like we got to fold these t-shirts. Nobody wants to do it, but you know, now we're gonna see how fast we can do it. And now it's a race, and so that's fun, and you can make things take way less time.
That
If only
that
we
sounds
could do that
lovely.
with art.
I think like growing up, I hated any kind of yard work or any work really, probably.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, ooh, I mowed a lawn. Like I'm like this is like very satisfying now.
You know
Uh,
exactly how much there is to mow.
yeah, yeah. Like I'm like I look at it and I did it. Like
Yeah.
there's no gray area.
Nobody could look at that and say you didn't mow the
Yeah, yeah.
lawn.
Yeah, it's weirdly free. Like if you're a creative, there is a buildup of anxiety eventually where you're just like, I'd just like to do something that is not creative, I guess. It's like a nice palate cleanser, I suppose.
Yeah, getting some stuff that's just like lets your mind like drift away a little bit while you're doing like a some nice manual task or repetitive task.
Do you collect pins yourself? I remember like when pins started blowing up, I feel like I mean within my sphere, I feel like Penny Arcade was largely responsible for that. But like when I was a little kid, pins were big, but then the enameled pins came out and then that just like took over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a big collection. I get overwhelmed by having lots of like little things. Then I have to because they have to have a home, and I'm like, I don't know where to put all these. Uh, so I have like I have sets that are special to me, like things that I made particularly that are special to me. I keep, but I have I have like a small collection of Disney pins
Mm-hmm.
that I have accumulated over the years. Like when I lived in Florida, I went all the time. Um, so I have those that I cherish. But even those, like I have a very small collection. I want to be able to wear it on my lanyard so I can trade when I'm at the park. But yeah, that's like as deep as my collection goes.
I recently bought a bunch of pens, and I'm like stressed. I'm like, do I buy a jacket specifically for my pens? And then at that point, like, what point do I become the villain from like Superman 2 from the 80s?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? like, what is too much pins? What's too much flair? I guess.
Yeah, I'll try to buy ones for like, I have a jacket that has like a vibe and I'm like, okay, this pin will go on that jacket. So I'll buy this one,
Right.
but there's a finite amount of room.
I feel like I think it would help my anxiety if Penny Arcade and you designed a jacket meant for pins. Just like there, I found like a jacket that was meant
Get
for
a denim
patches,
jacket.
and I was like, "What?"
Get a
Like,
denim jacket.
I don't know.
That's all you need.
I don't know if I can rock the denim jacket again. But that's fair. That's fair. And if anyone has any other questions, I think that's about it. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Having me.
It's always a weird way to meet someone that you've never not that you've never met before through interview is kind of a preposterous way, but I'm so glad we.
That's how a lot of interviews go, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, that's true, but when there's such a laser focus, because I'm used to interviews previously where I'm just like I go after like someone for like 10 minutes and they're like selling a video game, but like this is like a more casual like conversation thing. So this is like, hey, do you want to be friends for an hour? And that's just a weird experience.
Nice.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I appreciate everything that you're doing. It's a really cool pen set. I'm gonna like throw it up again. You should have links in chat if you want to purchase it, but it's on the Penny Arcade website, and that all goes to the Lambert House, and is a really good cause. Thank you so much, Gavin, for being on the show. I really appreciate it. It was really fun hanging out. I will forgive your lack of watching Lord of the Rings. But yeah, Alyssa and I are going to talk behind your back about it. So
That's fine.
no,
Have at it.
All right. Thank everyone for watching the show. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.